There are these moments in history that don't just change a country, they completely rewrite the source code, the very matrix of an entire era. The Napoleonic Code, that was one of those moments. And to really get our heads around its incredible power, we're going to use a pretty unique formula. Okay, so this is our main tool for today, the formula of everything. Think of it like a health check for a society. It basically says that for any civilization to be stable and healthy, it needs a good balance between 5 key things. You've got V for volume, that's the population, its size and complexity. R is for resources, not just money, but who has access to what. T is for time, a sense of stability, a vision for the future. Q is for quality, as in quality of life, justice, you get it. And finally, M is for meaning, that shared purpose that holds everyone together. When these 5 are in balance, things are good. When they're way out of whack, well, that's when you get a crisis. So, here's our game plan. First, we're going to use this formula to diagnose the absolute chaos of pre-Napoleonic France. Then, we'll see how the code was like the perfect medicine to bring back order. After that, we'll dig into why this idea was so powerful it was more threatening than any army. And to finish up, we're going to turn that same diagnostic lens on our world today. Okay, let's jump in our time machine. We're in 18th century France. And seriously, forget any romantic paintings you've seen. This place was a nation on the absolute brink of collapse, just drowning in social, cultural, and legal chaos. So if we use our formula, we can see exactly what was wrong. And man, the imbalance is just staggering. Its volume was in total crisis. The country was completely fractured by class warfare. Resources? A disaster. Mass poverty and property rights were a total free-for-all. Time felt completely broken. Just one violent, unstable regime after another. The quality of life and justice, it was in the gutter. And maybe the biggest one of all, meaning, was gone. Those revolutionary ideals of liberty, equality, fraternity had been totally swallowed up by all the turmoil. Into all this chaos steps a systemic solution. Not just another new king, but a whole new set of rules, the Napoleonic Code. And it was designed specifically to fix that broken formula. And check this out, you can see how the code was literally engineered to fix every single broken piece. It boosted quality by creating fair, unified laws that applied to everyone. It secured resources by making private property rights a real thing. It unified the nation's volume by putting everyone under the same legal standard. It stabilized time with predictable long-term rules. And it restored meaning by giving French society a new, stable purpose. It was, for all intents and purposes, a complete system reboot. And this is the absolute key right here. This wasn't just about winning a battle with swords. The real victory, the thing that changed everything, was a legal and social one. The code basically rewired French society from the inside out, making it impossible to ever go back to those old medieval ways, even long after Napoleon himself was gone. But what happens when one nation finds a cure for its own chaos? Well, for the rest of Europe's old monarchies, France's solution looked less like a cure and more like a dangerous virus, an idea that threatened to infect everyone. And this right here was the central conflict of the whole era. For the common people all across Europe, the code was like a dream come true. It promised equality, secure property, but for the kings, the aristocrats, the clergy, that same promise was their worst nightmare. Equality? That challenged their privilege. Property rights? That threatened their feudal control over everything. And civil liberties? Well, that was the end of their divine right to rule, period. This is exactly why the Napoleonic Wars really started. It wasn't just France against Europe, it was a war of ideas. The European elites all banded together to try and crush the Code Napoleonian and the dangerous idea of citizen equality that it stood for. They were literally fighting to defend their entire world order from becoming obsolete. And yet, they couldn't kill the idea. Why? Because the code just worked better. It offered a more balanced, more beneficial system for everybody, from the peasants all the way up to the new business class. This new legal order was simply more powerful than any king or old world army. But the code's influence didn't just stop at Europe's borders. And its core lesson about societal balance is, you could argue, more relevant now than ever before. Let's see how this story actually continues right into our world today. And here's a fascinating twist in the story. The code's principles actually found a home in America. Through the Louisiana Purchase, a state with a deep French legal heritage brought the core ideas of the code, things like equality before the law, clear civil rules, protection of property, right into the U.S. legal system. It just goes to show how effective and exportable a well-balanced system can be. And that brings us to today. We don't really live in isolated nations anymore. We live in what the source material calls a single, interconnected garden bed of Earthlings. And that means our sense of balance has to be global too. So, this brings us to the really critical question. If we take this same formula, the same diagnostic tool, and we apply it to our world right now, where are the cracks showing? What dangerous imbalance might be pushing us towards the next big global crisis? Let's run through the formula one last time for all of us. Let's think about our global volume. Is our population managed in a sustainable way? How about our resources? Is that massive gap between the haves and have-nots creating a dangerous instability? For time, are we actually planning for the future, or are we just lurching from one crisis to the next? Is a high quality of life a reality for everyone, or is it just for a privileged few? And finally, meaning. Do we have a shared global purpose that inspires us, or are we more divided than ever? So I'll leave you with this final thought. Just as the Napoleonic Code was a massive, systemic fix for a broken France, what's the single biggest imbalance our world is facing right now? Using this formula, which one of these indicators, volume, resources, time, quality, or meaning, do you think needs the most urgent correction? It's a huge question, and it's one that really affects us all.